Hello again YouTube. Today I thought we'd have a little look at a home computer from the fairly early 1980s. This is the Acorn Electron. The Acorn Electron was released in late summer 1983 and it's a cheaper version of a British computer called a BBC Model B. This originally retailed for £199 in the UK, and at its peak in 1985 was a second best-selling computer in the UK, just behind the Sinclair Spectrum and equal on terms with the C64. Most of the games came out on a cassette. This is the actual Acorn data cassette recorder, and it's just a run-of-the-mill cassette player with a counter on. Now the counter becomes very handy if you've got more than one game on a cassette, as you can run it to around about where the counter starts and then press play from there. Well, the Acorn Electron is an 8-bit computer with 32k of RAM and 1-channel sound, which differs from the Model B computer, which had a 3-channel sound, but as this is much smaller than the Model B, some compromises were made. On the side of the Electron, you got 4 different ports. Starting from the left, we've got the RF for your TV, got the video, and the RGB, which nowadays you can get a SCART lead for to run these on modern TVs. And the far right one is where you plug in your cassette. On the other end, you just have the AC adapter. On the back, there's a port which kind of looks a bit like the one you might get on a Mega Drive. Now there's various different box type add-ons you could have. They were called the Plus 1 and the Plus 3. The Plus 1 had a variety of different ports on, which mainly consisted of 2, ROM slots for extra memory, and there was games that were released on sort of a semi-cartridge type idea. There was also joystick ports for the arcade games. There are not many games did accept a joystick, but there were a few, like as you can see in the background, Starship Command, that would run off a joystick. And there was also the Plus 3, and that was a 3.5-inch floppy disk drive, which obviously was more games were released on that format, and you were able to save those. And the games on the 3.5-inch floppy and the ROM games were able to run at a little bit higher frame rate than the ones on the cassette, as they had higher memory. Games you can see there are the actual games that were made by Acorn themselves, by a film called Acorn Soft. This is Snapper, which is a Pac-Man rip-off, and came in these large cardboard boxes. You don't open the tops to get to the cassette, you open them out like this. You have loading instructions on that side, and the cassette on that side. That's about it really. It's quite a good little system. They did sell quite high numbers in the end, but it never really took off as well as it did, as it was late out onto the market. Though it was released in 1982, there was a planned rush for Christmas, as I had 300,000 on pre-order, but sadly they had manufacturer problems, mainly as some components were made outside the UK, and they only had about 20,000 ready for Christmas, and that delay meant that they were always a little bit behind supply, and by the time they had caught up, the supply had run out of it. Acorn Soft themselves also produced many cassette-based games that were like add-ons for a computer, which just ran several programs. This one, Desk Diary, and there were also various educational programs released for the system, as well as just arcade games. All in all, it's a very good computer. It's a very compact computer for its time, and though the graphics aren't nothing like you would expect on a Commodore or an Atari computer at the time, they are pretty solid and above a 2600, but way below an NES, so sort of in between those two really. Well, thank you very much for watching, and we'll have a quick look at the introductory cassette once I set this thing up. Right, Right, got it plugged in. This is a basic screen you get when you first switch on your Electron. And to start loading the cassette, you type in chain asterisk. Oh no you don't. Chain space asterisk intro, INTRO asterisk. Press return, it says searching, and you start the cassette. There's a power LED and a loading LED on the data cassette recorder, which is quite handy, and a recording LED if you're recording anything. And this is very old technology, so it'll take a very long time to load, so go make yourself a cup of tea or something. If you're just using an RF lead, it's very unlikely you'll get an Electron or any computer at that age to work on a LCD TV without having a really badly blurry picture. But on eBay there are sellers that will sell you specially made SCART leads, which is what I've got. So does your cassette recorder have motor control? Yes, so that's why. This is just the Acorn Electron screen that comes up on the introduction, showcasing its graphics and sound capabilities, if you can call it that. I think it could display 8 colours, I think. Welcome to the Acorn Electron. This cassette contains 15 programs, of which this is the first. Each program is identified by its program name. The program name should also give you an idea of what the program does. So press the space bar to continue. Programs are Introduction, Keyboard, which is like a piano-y sort of thing. Sketch, which is a really prehistoric paint. Dodgems, which is a sort of a car type game. I'm not sure what Biorhythms is. Clock is just an analog clock or a digital clock. You've got Gumonku, Message, Patterns, Mars Lander, Bug Zap, Island, Pallets, and a Farewell. To leave any one program, just press Escape. Try it now. So click Escape. And you can set in your time, which that'll do. You just enter the time, hours. Right, go for 12. 11, 10. That might not be the right time. I'm going to go on to the next program. Sure, why not? Once it loads the program you want, you can stop the tape player. Just for time's sake, we'll have a quick look at the sketch one and make that do. This is obviously paint. So your colours are 0 to 7 on the cursor keys. Your 8 is move. You press the D button to draw and your F button to fill in a line. So up with the cursor keys, we've got 2 selected, which is green. Let's draw a little square. You can see it is pretty slow. This is turn of the 80s technology we're talking about here. Just infill a few lines. And you can make some pretty patterns or whatever. Oh, that's Sketch. That's a little show at the introductory cassette. And a brief description of the Acorn Electron. Thank you very much for watching, and see you soon.